Yep, as you can tell, this video was way overdue, but now I'm finally doing it. The Lakers are looking to defend their title this year, and this is going to be a pretty fun season to watch. I already talked about the moves they made in my trades video where I mentioned the Dennis Schroeder trade, so I'm not going to go too in depth to it. I'm simply going to talk about how these additional pieces can really help our roster and how it's an upgrade to what we had from last year. So the distinction from last year's roster and this year's roster was last year's roster was a more defensive oriented team, and then you had LeBron and AD being the main source of offense, while Rondo was basically the leader for the second unit, and then you had Kyle Kuzma, who was basically an up and down player. And that team was very solid defensively. We had Avery Bradley, Dwight Howard, and Danny Green, and then obviously we had KCP and a magnificent stretch from Alex Caruso in the bubble when Bradley was not playing. However, an issue that a lot of people seem to have, myself included, and I'm glad our front office made these deals, is that we did not have guys that can create their own shot outside LeBron and AD. And yeah, Rajon Rondo was that, but he was basically the only guy that can create off the dribble outside of LeBron and AD. And Kuzma, well, again, he was up and down. There are times he could create a shot, and there are times where he was just basically ineffective. And I mentioned in my Miami Heat video that Avery Bradley was not one to create his own shot, rather rely on off-ball screens and cuts to the rim. While none of that matters now because not only we got a ring, I knew, and a lot of fans knew, that this was going to be a problem for the Lakers going into next year because you have a healthy Kyrie and KD back. You had Stephen Clay coming back as well. Obviously, that was before Clay got the Achilles injury. And now we gave our offense a boost by getting Dennis Schroeder, who came off a great season with the Oklahoma City Thunder, averaging nearly 18 a game, or I think it was 19 a game. Ironically, he came in second place to Montrezl Harrell, who averaged 18.6 with the Clippers last year. It may be just me, but I do believe Schroeder is getting better and better every year, especially when it comes to shooting, which is vital to playing alongside LeBron and AD. And he can take pressure off of LeBron and AD when LeBron and AD don't have the ball in their hands. Obviously, he can't replace some of the stuff that Rajon Rondo, Avery Bradley, and Danny Green can do, but definitely we needed a boost on offense. Defensively, Schroeder is getting better, but there are still holes in his defensive game. But I don't think his defense is pretty much a concern to the Lakers right now. Just him taking the pressure off LeBron and AD, being the third ball handler, and more than likely the third option. Montrezl Harrell is a pretty damn good player. That's it. But no, on some real shit though, Montrezl is a pretty good player. Very good in the post, has good handles, very physical down low. But the only thing about him is that he is a disadvantage on offense. Last year we had Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, who are our last line of defense, and now they are gone, and we got Montrezl Harrell, which is good for our offense. And I don't know if it will be good for our defense because he was undersized, and in the second round against the Nuggets, he was basically being abused by Nikola Jokic. Obviously, it didn't help that he was out of shape, but he had to leave the bubble because he had to honor a family figure. Rest in peace. And it also didn't help that that whole Clippers team was out of sync throughout the whole playoffs, and the fact that Doc Rivers was basically over-relying on him to play center. On the Lakers, as long as Montrezl knows his role, I don't think him defensively nor offensively will be an issue. I strongly believe that Montrezl will be good for us and he'll excel with us, mainly because he doesn't have to deal with locker room egos and he won't have to be telling off players that think they know it all. Paul George. Wesley Matthews is a solid 3-and-D player. He is the type of player that can fit in with any team. Obviously, he can put the ball on the floor, but for the most part, he can shoot the 3-ball really well, and he is a very rugged defender. Last year in the playoffs, he shot a career high 39.5% from 3, while shooting 36% in the regular season with Milwaukee. Wes Matthews has always been someone to shoot the 3-ball, and I do think he'll be a great fit with LeBron and AD. Now, we can't replace the stuff that Avery and Danny can do, despite Danny not being a good shooter for us in the playoffs, and that's just me putting it nicely. He's definitely a solid replacement for those two. As for Marc Gasol, he's still a solid player at 35 years old, but he is getting up there in age. And obviously, he's no Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee in terms of what they bring to the table, or what they brought to the table, excuse me, what they brought in terms of shot blocking and athleticism. Marc Gasol is far from being that player he was in Memphis, but he's still a solid role player, and he's still a decent enough rim protector, and he is a good passing big. And also, y'all can't tell me that Powell did not play a part in getting Mark to the Lakers. I know the Lakers did want him, but you can't tell me Powell, a two-time champion with the Lakers, did not play a part in getting Marc Gasol to the Lakers. But to my point, we have a lot of new pieces that are learning how to mesh together and learning how to play together. We do not have the same roster as we did last year. Now, I waited 4 games into the season until I can make this video so I can be a little bit more spot on my predictions. Some people have been very concerned with this roster because we've only won 2 games, and those 2 games were against the Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and those 2 losses on our record are against the LA Clippers, ironically on ring night, and more recently the Portland Trailblazers, where we let Gary Trent look like Klay Thompson with all the threes he's been draining, and obviously Dame and CJ had their respective night. So these losses may look bad as of right now, but honestly, we're still a young team, except LeBron and AD, of course. But outside of those 2, we still have new pieces that are learning to mesh together and gel together, and I think over time we're going to get better throughout the season. And I still think we are going to repeat, but here are some valid concerns that I will give my best take on. And one of the main concerns is our lack of shot blocking. Last year, I think I already brought this up because I've been recording this video at like separate times, so I tend to forget things. I brought up JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. They were our best rim protectors, and they were really vital to our defense all year last year. Getting guys like Trez and Gasol is not bad return, especially what they can bring offensively. But defensively, Gasol, again, he's not the same player he was in Memphis, but he could still somewhat hold his end of the fort. And Montrez, if y'all are paying attention, just basically got abused every time he was put on Jokic. I know Anthony Davis is a solid rim protector, but the thing is he is not a 5, or at least he doesn't want to play the 5. And I don't think he wants to spend too much energy guarding a player like Jokic, because you do need him on the offensive end too. So as much as I'm all for getting a 3rd star and like a D Rose or Zach LaVine to the Los Angeles Lakers, I do think we need a premier, well, not a premier big man, but a big man who can be a force defensively. Mason Plumlee definitely falls in that category. I know this may be a random name I'm throwing out there, but Bismack Biyombo would be a pretty solid addition to this Laker team. Good rebounder and good shot blocker, and when he's near the paint, he's basically an automatic bucket from there every single time. But most importantly, Bismack can get you some block shots and again get you some boards. Now I know Marc Gasol has been averaging 6 rebounds, which is alright for his age. I do want Trez to average a bit more on rebounds, but he can only do so much because he's only 6'7", so 6 rebounds is fine where he's at. Anthony Davis, I do need to see him grab a bit more boards, because 8 a game at his size is not all that great. So if we can have a defensive force that can protect the paint like a Bismack Biyombo or Mason Plumlee, our defense will be just as good as it was last year. Because we have the perimeter defenders in Matthews, KCP, Caruso, Alex. Schroeder can definitely defend the perimeter when he wants to. But the thing is, we have no interior big men, or legit interior big men, outside of maybe Gasol. But having a guy like Bismack or Mason Plumlee can actually help out our interior defense a bit, because so far we haven't been too solid on that end, but we have not been abysmally bad. We just need a physical force down low, and I do think that's what Mason and Bismack can provide to this team. Now, Wes Matthews, well, he needs to hit his shots. He was a sniper in the bubble, and he's always been a good shooter throughout his entire career, but so far, he's been playing the same way Kelly Oubre has been playing for the Warriors, meaning he hasn't been playing that great. And again, he's a new guy, so he'll definitely need enough time, but really, he just needs to hit his shots. That's basically it. Now, with all that being addressed, why do I think the Lakers are going to repeat? Well, We have LeBron and AD to start off with. One of the best dynamic duos in Laker history. And in the West, well, our best competition is probably the Clippers, but they're gonna have to prove a lot of people wrong after what happened last year. The Mavericks are a young and improving team, but really, I don't see them forcing a game 7 on us. The Houston Rockets, they're a wash because they have a Harden problem. The Denver Nuggets got slightly worse, but they're still going to be all right. And then the Portland Trailblazers definitely showed some fight last night, but again, they're going to have to show it in the playoffs. So no team in the West could really compete with this Lakers team outside of the LA Clippers. Maybe the Dallas Mavericks, but I'm not too confident in them because, again, they're a young team. And then the East, the two teams that really stand a chance against us is Brooklyn and Milwaukee. I'm putting all my chips on Brooklyn because Kevin Durant's one of my favorite players in the NBA outside of LeBron right now. And Giannis has shown time and again that he is a choke artist in the playoffs when that wall is built around him. And so far this year, the Brooklyn Nets have been looking really, really good this season. But my prayers go out to Spencer Dinwiddie with that torn ACL. But as long as Kevin Durant plays like his MVP self, you can't argue against Kevin Durant being potentially an MVP this year, or dispute the Nets going to the finals this year and upsetting Milwaukee. But even if they do make the finals, LeBron and AD, as well as our guys knocking down their shots, would be too much for even a good defensive team like Milwaukee to handle. Now, do we need a third star? And this is the last point I will be addressing in this video. It would be desirable to get a guy like Zach LaVine or one of my personal favorites, Derrick Rose, because, you know, I'm a Derrick Rose fan, if y'all couldn't tell. While I do like the idea of the Lakers getting a third star to pair alongside LeBron and AD, again, I wouldn't be that mad because we do need some rim protection like Bismack and Mason Plumlee or any other big, to be honest, like a athletic big who can block shots and get rebounds. It's really all we need them to do, because if we do trade for a third star, it's going to have to be at the cost that we do not have any shot blocking, and we're going to have to trade like maybe Talen Horton-Tucker and Kyle Kuzma for Zach LaVine or Derrick Rose. I would be happy if we got a third star, but again, I would not be mad, because I would rather have us get a solid role player, more specifically a big man who can block shots and get boards, than just train for a third star for the sake of training for a third star. To sum my answer up, it's basically a yes and no. So here you guys go. After a long ass time waiting, I finally put out this video. Can the Lakers repeat? Basically sum it up, hell yeah we can, but I wouldn't be mad if we made some solid moves, which I don't doubt that Rob Pelinka has some tricks up his sleeve. So that's the end of this video. Basically, I will be uploading some gameplay in the coming days instead of basketball talks. I will be doing basketball talks, but I want to, you know, get some gameplay on this channel because I do have some gameplay saved for y'all that I want to post on here. So that's basically it. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your 2020 and stay safe out there. Happy holidays, and I'm X. Deuces.